So, Zipblock just did a video about Wonder Woman, and I watched it, and I recommend it for people to watch to get their own idea of what I'm talking about and what I'm responding to in this video, and also to see some of the opposite ideas and what I have, because I do have some disagreeing. I do disagree with him on some factors, but although I respect his opinion, but I just have a different view about how I see the Wonder Woman character than he does. I love Wonder Woman. She, like Superman, is a character that I had to learn to appreciate, because I feel like his point is right, that the people who write for Wonder Woman, much like people who write for Superman, don't know how to write for these characters. They don't know how to really make them beyond what they initially were supposed to be when they first appeared into the market frame. You know, now that we have so many people who are like Superman or so many other female characters who fit and do what Wonder Woman can do, what role can they play in our society? And I feel like Superman hasn't been able to leave because he is kind of like still an icon. But Wonder Woman, while she's equally iconic, her narrative has always sort of worked best, unfortunately, as a group and not as a solo act. And I've been thinking about a few reasons why. But since this is a response, I want to talk about a few points that Zip made. One thing I totally agree with him about is I hate when Wonder Woman is put with either Superman or Batman. No, stop. I like her with Steve Trevor. I think they have a really interesting dynamic. It reminds me of how in the early Teen Titans you had Donna Troy with her, I forget his name, but the older male, I think it was like a teacher or something character, and that was her love interest. That worked because they were normal guys. They were good foils. Just like I think that Lois Lane works as a great love interest for Superman because she is a foil to him, and in a lot of ways she's more intelligent than him, so she can kind of balance out what he doesn't have. And the same thing for like Steve Trevor. He's an average Joe kind of guy. He has similar values to Wonder Woman, but he can also challenge her in certain ways, as a love interest should. A love interest, and especially in comic books, should always add to a character, not take away. Where I disagree with Zip is on Wonder Woman's status as a feminist character. Now, as someone who identifies as a feminist, I do understand the problems with it, and I feel like the big issue I think about Wonder Woman's feminism is that a lot of the time, at least for most times that I've seen her in the media, she is not written as a feminist. She's written as a straw feminist. She's written to be that kind of character that guys and the general public have been told that feminists are like man-hating, very aggressive. Those kind of that kind of characterization has been put on Wonder Woman a lot, especially in Justice League. I feel that was very put on, and also in the Wonder Woman movie. And whenever she's put into that kind of characterization, the whole point is for her to be wrong, because the entire Wonder Woman movie is teaching her that her ideology and that the Amazons' matriarch society is wrong, because it's not. It's just the same as our patriarchal society, but it isn't. But that's not the point. Not that it's not wrong, but the fact that it's not exactly the same. But again, I digress. And also in Justice League, when you have the one rogue Amazon who says that she's going to destroy all men, Hawkgirl compliments that woman is just taking the ideology of the Amazons, taking it to its next natural progression. And I think that those ideas is what a lot of people think feminism is, and therefore it gets put into Wonder Woman because she has been kind of put as a feminist icon. And I think that the problem is that a lot of people don't think that gender inequality is still an issue anymore, and therefore you have a character like Wonder Woman who has not given anything to stand for. She no longer has a place because they're like, her issues aren't important. But I think to bring that back and to really make her more dynamic is to recognize that those issues still exist and would definitely exist for her. She comes from a matriarchal society where there are none of the gender roles that we have in our society. And therefore, there's going to be this clash between her ideologies and not seeing women as having to be in subservient positions to now having to see women in those positions, and her taking a stand against that. And that does not equal to her being a man-hater, which is what a lot of writers do, and which is what the problem is with when they construct her character. What she should be made to do is be kind of a force for the female superheroes in the Justice League, as being a way of getting them together and helping them to break out from what they were before. And the other thing is that in the Justice League itself, you have what she most of the time ends up being the only lead female character. You have, like in Justice League, she would have been the only one if they hadn't made Hawkgirl the another lead instead of, Hawkman. And So it's unfortunate because you have a character who could stand for so much, but they want to treat her issues as a non-issue, and therefore she is given no legitimacy in her ideologies. And I think that's an unfortunate effect of the way we view gender roles in our society. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having feminist heroines, because there are female readers who need those kind of things to help them maybe learn about what feminism actually means. Especially, and another factor is that you have a character like Wonder Woman who's supposed to be written as a feminist, but she's written by, most of the time, guys who may have their own view on the movement that is different from what the movement actually stands for. You don't have actual women writing and maybe deconstructing the issues with feminism that could be addressed, or, you know, having Wonder Woman deal with those kind of things. Like, that would be interesting if you had, like, you know, a character like Vixen not agreeing with Wonder Woman's mentality because she's like, what has that ever done for me? Because, you know, as a black woman, it'd be a totally different experience for her. But it's always been just kind of like, oh, she's against guys, so it's like, she's a bitch and whatever. And it's never, no, the nuances of what that means are never dealt with. And so it just comes off as very weak straw feminist writing. And I think that's part of the reason why, as a feminist character, sometimes Wonder Woman has been poor, because she's mainly just there to be what guys fear. And then when that's not put in, she's a safe female heroine, because no matter what, she doesn't upset the status quo. She doesn't try to shock it. She's just who she is. And I like that she would come in and shake up the status quo, because it is, you know, there would be more male superheroes than female. And a lot of the female superheroes that have managed to kind of break out are still mainly known and mainly as part of supporting characters in the main guy Parthenons. And that is unfortunate. And so when you have a character like Wonder Woman who has a chance to be her own character and deal with these issues, it would be best to have it dealt with in a mature way that's not just dealing on outdated stereotypes. And if it is going to deal with certain issues about the movement, to have it done in really interesting ways, and rather just be like, oh, she's just a horrible man-hater. And then the other issue with Wonder Woman, and I think is part of the whole people don't know how to write her thing, is that her rogues gallery sucks. Her rogues gallery is like weak as hell. And it's because I feel like if they actually like went into Greek mythology, they would have so much more stuff to deal with. But because they write their Greek mythology like Judeo-Christian mythology, you have her going against people like Hades, which makes no sense, because that would not be someone that she would be up against. If Ares, I understand, because he does represent the chaotic nature of war. They kind of construct the Amazons to be like these followers of like Athena and stuff like that, whereas Athena probably wouldn't give a shit about them, because Athena never really kind of helped out females in her myths. She mostly helped male heroes. She's one of those women who's probably like, I don't hang out with girls, I don't have any girlfriends because we're too much drama. She was probably like one of those people, whereas, you know, the Amazons would probably be more about like Artemis followers, who would be more about like in that kind of way. And so you have this kind of really weird mythology where they don't actually do stuff with that. You know, you have, she could be like a demigod and fight monsters and fight something like that. Like maybe like if she's gonna have like, you know, an arch enemy, like someone like the Echidna, like the mother of monsters, would be a really interesting foil for her. But her foil, her arch enemy, is Cheetah. What? Are you kidding me? Like, Cheetah of all people. Like, Lex Luthor, brilliant foil for Superman. You know, Joker, brilliant foil for Batman. And even without the Joker, you have characters like Dr. Freeze, and you have Catwoman, who's a great character. Superman, you have Darkseid and Brainiac. Wonder Woman, you got Cheetah. Oh yeah. And then that idea of having a foil is really important, because what makes these characters and what adds to their characterization is them actually having characters who go against what they stand for. So you have to give Wonder Woman something to stand for, something solid and something empowered about her. What does she stand for? If she's supposed to stand for gender inequality and, you know, helping be a role model to girls, then let her actively do it. I feel one of the things, like, if she's just going to be a female character who's strong and does her own thing, that's great. But let's not put that feminist label on her, because that's not what she's standing for. If she's just going to be, like, just kick butt and do her own thing, that's great. But if she's actually going to stand for something, let her stand for it. Let her actually be a part of that, instead of just making it be like, oh, well, she's strong, isn't that enough? Meanwhile, she doesn't really do anything to help females in her new Earth position. She doesn't actually help the gender. She actually looks down on women who don't fit a specific role. That's not uplifting feminism. That's not helpful feminism. That's not the kind of feminism that we should be promoting when it's just kind of this straw man thing that we've been having to see so often in the media, especially in comic books. And so they're not going to give something to stand for and actually stick with it. Her character is never going to be interesting because we know what Superman stands for. We know what Batman stands for. Wonder Woman is kind of an enigma. Even in one of the things I was kind of looking at in the show is that, like, she's not really somebody. I mean, we know she's a warrior. We know she's a badass. And we know she's got a mom. But other than that, she just fights a lot and beats up guys and, like, flirts with Batman, which is gross. I don't like that. But, like, even Hawk Girl, who is kind of, even as you would think, not as popular as Wonder Woman, ends up having all these layers as a complex female character about her loyalty to her homeland, about her new world, about how she views religion and faith. It has a lot of these great inner conflicts and dynamics and interesting things done with her. Wonder Woman, nothing. And it was just really interesting to see that. Like, they don't give her anything to do, and I don't know why. Is it really that hard to have a character who might be feminist? Is that too intimidating for people? And if it is, that's kind of sad, because in this day and age, you would think that those kind of things would be, you know, more to the public sphere. And if they're not going to actually push anything for her, then get rid of her. Like, I know it's harsh and an extreme. I don't want to get rid of Wonder Woman, but if you're going to have a character that's not going to stand for anything and has no point except to be kind of like a dumping ground for ideas that you don't actually believe in, then why even have her? That's the whole issue, too, with, you know, even if you want to make her, like, the straw feminist character, as they often do, is that they never actually care about what her beliefs are. She's always seen to be an extremist. She's always seen as being, you know, she's just dumb, and she just, like, even when she talks about, like, her whole warrior thing, she's always made to look like, oh, she's just, you know, she can't do anything. She's just crazy. She's got to learn this moral lesson about stuff. It's never about her sticking to her guns and actually believing in something and it being right. She's always wrong or having to have to change her ways. She's never actually seen to be competent in the long run because they don't agree with her ideals. And they don't write her as a person whose ideals you can actually connect with. And that's unfortunate because there's so much there that can be done with her as a heroine. And it's just ignored. And it's unfortunate because she's awesome. I mean, even as just a warrior character, she's a trained military woman. She knows how to fight. She's probably would be able to beat up Batman, despite what that Injustice battle arena thing is doing. She's smart. She's capable of holding her own. I would even love for her to just quit the Justice League and start her own thing and just do her own stuff. But, you know, it's just hard. And I think, like, she's a character who's supposed to embody so many things that I don't think the writers actually believe in or think is an issue. And I think, you know, man or woman, because you can be a guy and identify as feminist, someone needs to come in here and actually give her something to stand for, something to be believed in, and to actually recognize her as being someone who deserves her own good rogues gallery, someone who deserves her own love interest, not two guys who are so well-known and proud that they can keep her in her place. You know, it's just, she needs to be made someone who doesn't need to be liked. That's the other thing, too. I feel like there's this need to make Wonder Woman likable. And a lot of female characters to make them likable. And I feel like, you know what? Of course there are characters that we're supposed to like. We're supposed to root for Superman. And I do. I love Superman. But there are plenty of people who hate Superman's guts and think he's lame. There are plenty of people who, like, think, like, the Flash is lame. But they never want to change who the Flash is to make him that way. Except, you know, really bad writers who don't understand characters. You can't make Superman and Batman. Sorry. Get over it. He's not angsty like that. But, you know, they have to give her personality and have them stick to it. And until they do that, nothing's ever going to come from her. And it's sad, because there are so many female characters that I think would make great. I think, like, even, like, you know, but there are so many great female comic book characters that are around and there that have grown since how they've begun. Like, you have someone like Susan, is her name Susan Storm? Oh, Sue Richards from the Fantastic Four, who started off as a damsel in distress and a completely weak character who was always getting kidnapped into being someone who is just kick-ass. and amazing, who was probably one of the most powerful members of the Fantastic Four. But with Wonder Woman, it's been kind of like slowly making her powerful, then wanting her to be like likable and delicate, and then you weaken her, and then when people get mad about that, you make her strong again, and then you just keep going back and forth trying to find some kind of balance, when you just need to construct a character who is more than just a warrior, more than just a feminist, who is a person, who has morals, who has ideals, who can grow, who can change, who can develop into something more than just symbolism. Anyway, even though I disagree with some of your points, Zip, I do respect your videos. Keep doing it, and I hope you don't mind this response. See you guys later. Carpo tunnel again. Isn't it great?